So as part of my happiness course, actually let me quickly do an introduction. So we've got Marisha, who feels she's shy of being on camera, and and as a lady who practices Christianity more than most, I actually appreciate that because my wife doesn't like being on camera, and so I should treat Marisha, my sister, as I would treat any other woman who naturally, and I think it's actually a healthy response to not want to necessarily be on camera, but I appreciate her being here. So let's just hear your voice, Marisha.
I was on earlier on, so you all know what I look like.
Exactly, thank you for reminding me to say that actually. Yeah, so we just saw her earlier on in the video about, let's say, Jesus in India. Oh, we've got some music going on to make unnecessary noise, but anyway. Oh gosh. Anyway, hopefully we could hear us each other. Okay, so this is part of my happiness course, and we're talking about how Muslims are sexperts, which means sex experts. I'm trying to be a bit trendy with the words. Okay. So very quickly, just to introduce this, I'm going to talk about a principle which makes Muslims, and to some extent Orthodox Christians and Orthodox Jews, also experts on sex because they have the most kids. But I would say Muslims generally have the biggest reputation for that internationally, all over the world. The Jews who do have a lot of kids are very few in number. There are a lot of Jews who no longer believe in Judaism. There are loads of atheist Jews, so it's a very small minority who actually have a lot of kids. And the number of Orthodox Christians, or people who practice Christianity and have lots of kids, are very few. Would you agree, Marisha?
Yeah, Yeah, without a doubt.
Cool. Marisha, how many kids did you have?
4.
4. And that's because you divorced early, but you would have wished to have loads of kids, is that right?
Hundreds, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's the proper Christian, Jewish, Muslim way to go forth and multiply. Do you agree?
100%, yeah.
We see, exactly. So she just said it was in the Bible, but I wasn't quick enough to catch you on that. So yeah, let's quickly get onto this. This is a very important part of our lives, and we, as in the West, to become divorced in terms of from our relationship with other human beings and don't know how to be good at sex. But you should, if you want to ask anybody, don't ask the people who are let's say dying out in numbers. Do you agree that in the West people are not having enough kids and we're having what we call a population implosion?
Yeah, 100%, without a doubt. It's disgusting.
And it is disgusting because what it really means is that devaluing families and children as if they are a bacteria, a dirty thing that's destroying the world. It's a really horrible way at looking at children. But anyway, let's just get on to it. So what I'm going to talk about is some really simple things, surprisingly simple things, and it's good that it's really simple. If you want to improve your sex life, there are some really simple things, but the reason why Muslims are so far ahead in this, partly because they are very firm on their beliefs and that they should follow them. So, unfortunately, in Christianity, for example, we're often told just have to believe, but don't actually have to follow the teachings. And hopefully you're not getting blind by looking into the sun. No, yeah, let me make it a bit more comfortable. Because you're having to look into the sun. She's chilling out on the, so let me just give you a picture of what's happening. So, all right, okay, fine. We got pretty aggressive people here. Okay, so just to give a picture, would you agree that a lot of Christians don't follow the Bible?
100%, without a doubt, yeah. They follow the media, they follow the TV, they're sat in cubes, isn't it?
Exactly, they just follow the social norms and they call themselves Christian, but they don't look at the Bible and follow some of the beautiful teachings in the Bible. I don't agree with the whole Bible, but yeah. And so, when people, if you go say I go 10 meters in the right direction and everybody else is going 10 meters in the opposite direction, the wrong direction, then you will look like you're making loads more progress if you're going in the right direction because you're so far ahead of the people going in literally the opposite direction. Do you get the analogy?
Yeah, very much so. Yeah.
So let's talk about this very simple idea from the Quran. It says, say to the believing men that they restrain their eyes, and say to the believing women that they restrain their eyes. So that just means don't look indecently at other people who you are not married to. What do you think about that?
100%. Yeah, we've got something in Catholicism actually. Custody of the eyes. Like if I was to see a handsome man, I would look down. I wouldn't look at him.
You're basically like a Muslim, but it's not surprising. Jesus was like a Muslim. Mary was dressed like a Muslim. But why is that such a big thing? Why does it make such a difference to our sex lives? So, I suppose I should give a bit more of an intro as to how badly things are going in the West. So Muslims are sexperts because they have the most children. That's evidence that they have a good sex life, right? But the West is sexless, and what I mean by that is that 30% of men under 30 have had no sex in the last year in the UK. Did you know something like that?
No, I didn't know.
Does it surprise you that people are not having as much sex as they used to?
Yeah, too many of the Black Mirrors, isn't it? They're all on their phones, mobile phones. They're not communicating properly with people.
Right, yeah. And did you know 50% of women under 20 have no children? No, sorry, I put the wrong number. Under 30 have no children in the UK.
Yeah, that's normal for here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, very much.
Okay, so that is another sign that, people are definitely not having enough sex, right? Okay. Whereas Muslims are in the UK are doing exactly the opposite, right? That's a bit more of a background, but I want to go back to the verse of the Holy Quran. Why that makes such a big difference? So, did you know that if you make this is according to psychology, that if you make direct eye contact with a woman, it makes you more attracted to them.
Say that again.
So, did you know that if you make direct eye contact, sorry about making you putting in,
No.
I should be your shadow. Let me be your shadow for a second. The sun's finally coming out. Okay. Anyway, so did you know that if you make direct eye contact with a member of the opposite sex, you become more attracted to them?
I don't know if that's true or not.
Okay. So apparently, yeah. So do check it out. Maybe I'll put a link if it's hard to find. Okay. But maybe not with maybe a really old person or something. I don't know. But generally, a young person who's still able to have children. Let's just say, right? So yeah. Why do you think you should cast down your eyes?
For respect. And yeah, I suppose if you're a young person, see, I don't think about things like this now because I'm old, so, but I suppose, if you're young, it would be more respectful to keep your eyes down when you are speaking to, say, a married man or something, yeah.
And did you know, or does it make sense, you might not know all these facts, but does it make sense that people who look at pornography, I can't remember the exact number, but basically drastically increases your chances of divorce. Does that surprise you or make sense to you?
No, not at all. I know all about that. It's only really immature men use pornography, and I think people know it destroys your brain cells and all sorts. So, yeah.
And so what's happening in pornography is that there's some degree of, you could say, immaturity, but there's a lot of old people who are looking at it, right? And it's really hard. Some addictions are really hard to get off, right? And especially if you don't have sex, you don't have a relationship, right? But there are people who are in a relationship, but when they are looking, and I'm interested in your opinion on this. I'm gonna try to cover you. I feel sorry for you.
No.
Yeah, you're all right. You like the sun. Okay, I'll let you get your vitamin D then. Okay. So if you are looking at other women who you're not married to, you're looking at them lustfully, what you're doing is you're telling your brain, you're tricking your brain into saying, oh, this woman her nose looks prettier than my wife's nose, and then you look at another one, because when you look at pornography, you look at a lot of different women, right? And then you say, I don't know, her eyes or her backside, her whatever, all these things look better than my wife, and you start collecting this picture of an imaginary woman who you start liking instead of your wife. Do you know what I mean? And you start feeling disappointed in your normal human wife because she doesn't match up to all these ridiculous ideas. People who have plastic surgery and they're acting, because it's all acting. If you don't know, that pornography is acting, and it's horrible as well. The whole all the gymnastic kind of sexual acts, they're not. You don't have a connection with the person if you're making so much work doing gymnastic acts. You know what I mean? By like really difficult acts, you can't actually have a good time with the person because you're trying so hard. What do you think about that so far?
Yeah, definitely, 100%.
And this is why people say, oh, what about the Hindus who teach Kama Sutra? Kama Sutra is this kind of ancient sex acts, whatever. I think that is when that time in history, society was collapsing and they had pornography all over in rocks. Okay, so that doesn't represent the original teachings of Hinduism, and it just represents a time in society when society is collapsing and people are doing all sorts of lewd and basically focusing too much on sex, right? It's not that you shouldn't have sex, you should have sex on a regular basis, but not, they're trying to, because they've been disconnected from each other, they're focused on the sort of outward appearance rather than having a good relationship with your wife when you're having sex in a comfortable way. What do you think about that so far?
Yeah, very much so, yeah.
So in the Quran, it subtly suggests, it doesn't talk about positions too much, but it talks about missionary position, which is just the most comfortable and focus on the most erogenous zones. You know what I mean by erogenous? Like, yeah. So you just, rather than doing all sorts of weird flying sex sort of acts, which you're not actually connecting physically and enjoying the experience.
Yeah.
And so what else is there? So don't look at, try not to look at people the wrong way, people who are not your related, because otherwise you'll start hating your wife and then you won't have a really good relationship with your wife. Don't look at porn and have more sex with your wife so you don't feel like you need to have to look at porn, and of course you need to get into a relationship in the first place. Now that builds back to all the poor people, all the poor men and women who are not having sex even in their relationship because they don't have these values which tell them they should be in. So there's people who in sexless marriages, right? You've probably heard of that.
Yeah. It's rare though, isn't it? Rare.
It's rare for you, but it's actually quite common for people who don't have. It's very common. I mean, and I want to talk about why it's common. Okay, and the reason why you've missed it is because you've always stuck to the Bible. Okay, so one way you've missed it and avoided this problem is that did you always consider your main role as a woman to be a wife and a mother?
Yes.
Right?
Oh yeah.
But do you agree that a lot of people think that that's a secondary or a horrible role even, and they think careers are more important than, a lot of modern Westerners think that careers are more important than being mothers?
Oh yeah, I'm completely what would be called old-fashioned. You know, I believe in you serve the man, you know.
That's why you had such a good relationship with your husband to some extent, right?
Yeah.
Okay, because you had that positive attitude, right? And nowadays that would be considered like misogynistic to be serving your husband, which is really sad, right? Right, women prefer to serve their boss rather than their husband, right? And so the reason why I bring that up is if you're working, you're going to be tired after coming back from work, and it's going to be hard to have sex.
Yeah, very much. Yeah.
So that's why you sidestep that problem. You don't even realize it so much, right? Okay. Another thing is people are scared of having sex because they're scared that children are too expensive. But if you're religious, okay, and you have an awareness of God, and you can see God is creating everything and providing for you and provides for your kid, you don't worry about that, and so you're more free to have sex, but not only free to have sex, but free to have sex without contraception. Because when you have contraception, like if you take the pill, it ruins your mood for sex. Okay, you might not know that, but statistically that is well known, right? Well, no, it's not well known enough. That's why I'm talking about it. But also, if you're using contraception, it's like wearing a sock, as it were. Like, there's no thrill of the risk of having a child. So if you take away all the thrills and you put a boundary between the man and the woman, it's not engaging enough. The act of sex is not engaging enough. Do you agree?
Yeah, there's also an element where you've got the natural method, which I always used. Catholics are meant to be using that. They're not meant to be doing contraception. So I've always known when I was fertile and when I wasn't. So that wouldn't be a sort of...
so you would avoid having sex at certain times?
No, never. No. But I just knew when I was fertile, so...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you just didn't avoid it, you maybe even encouraged it, possibly.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah.
That's cool. Great attitude, I think. And then, last thing, so what I'm saying here is, I've started with the verse of the Holy Quran, so don't look at other people, but I'm saying all religious values, especially people who are Muslims who really stick to their real values, okay, they will automatically become really good at sex, and they'll enjoy the experience more by practicing it. And to put it another way, if you're a Muslim, you claim you're a Muslim, but you're looking at pornography and doing all these bad things, to that extent you're less a Muslim, and also to that extent you'll enjoy sex less. So it's not just have the label of it, but actually being religious, being a Muslim, being a proper Christian, being a proper Jew, that improves it. So I'm talking about a few things, not directly relating to this verse of the Holy Quran, but I'm saying in religious communities, they believe women have a role, and that is not to go to work or have a job, okay? They believe God provides, and they also have less sexual partners. Okay, so they don't believe in sex outside marriage. Okay, and why does that have an effect on your sexual relationship? Is because they've shown that women, for example, who've had loads of sexual partners, like one night stands all the time, right? They have less oxytocin, which is the chemical that binds people together. So they have less of a relationship with the person they're having sex with, which makes sense, I think, that if you're having sex with 100 people, then the person you're having sex with next is nobody. It's just another person you're just doing a random act with. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, very much so.
Great, and it's all common sense. There's not much for you to say, Marisha, isn't it? Because it's so obvious if you're coming from a religious background. But if you're coming from a non-religious background, you make your life so difficult, and you actually find these things really difficult to understand. But anyway, hopefully people understand. Thank you so much, Marisha, for another video. It was really good having you. Thank you.
Thank you.